Hello everyone. I want to talk about a film that I watched where financially it is considered a not so great success in terms of financial earnings. But when I watched the movie, there is one major scene, theoretically, that may be the reason for what probably caused this dilemma. So in case if you haven't watched this film, it is titled Sunshine. It is a film from 2007 directed by Danny Boyle, and it is played by notable actors such as Cillian Murphy, Chris Evans, Rose Byrne, Michelle Yeoh, Hiroyuki Sanada, Cliff Curtis, Benedict Wong, Troy Garrity, and Mark Strong. The movie is set in the year 2057, where the Earth is freezing due to the sun, which is dying, and the only way to solve it is to detonate a stellar bomb to quote jumpstart back to life and restore its function. The crew of the ship named Icarus II is heading into the sun aboard with its members Robert Capa, a physicist, James Mays, an engineer, Cassie, the pilot of the ship, Corazon, the biologist, Surley, the psychological officer, Harvey, the comms officer, and also the second in command, Kaneda, the captain, and Trey, the ship's navigator. As the film begins, Dr. Surley can also be seen to be somewhat addicted to the appearance of the sun, sometimes with little protection and even requested for more intense exposure. Is this dude pretending to be Superman or something? Moving on, the crew of Icarus II is approaching the planet Mercury and intercepted a signal coming from a previous ship, the Icarus I, sending a message to Earth, but didn't reach due to the interference from the said planet. The group now faces a conundrum where they choose to approach Icarus I due to the distress signal it was sending, with the idea of Kappa to use the payload or the stellar bomb that the previous ship also had combined with theirs. James is the one that denies the idea, stating his other choice to proceed with the mission according to the original plan, but ultimately proceeds with the first choice as they approach Icarus I. Their detour set by Trey is achieved. However, he did a mistake as he forgot to realign the shields of their ship to the sun, causing massive damage to their artificial garden inside, cutting their overall production of oxygen and their communication systems. That causes the crew to stop and repair the ship, which is led by Kaneda and Kappa, with their ship's shield being realigned to protect the two from the sun. However, the AI of the ship decides to autocorrect its shields due to the damage caused earlier, prompting the repairman to fall back, but Kaneda left behind and dies due to the immense exposure of the sun. But he finished the job while Kappa returned to the ship. On the side note, Harvey replaced Kaneda as the captain. As the crew forward to the Icarus I, Trey is sedated by Surley, which said that he is suicidal due to the error in his navigation of the ship. Upon arriving at the Icarus I, four members, Kappa, Mace, Harvey, and Surley, boarded, and we are also shown some flashy images. That freaks me the heck out, by the way. As the crew examines the ship, some drastic changes happen inside. One of it is the plantation, where it is overgrown without control, or the ship being covered in dust. But the strange thing that the crew investigates was the mainframe, which is destroyed, causing the Icarus I unable to move. The crew also found footage from the previous captain of Icarus I, with his face seemingly disfigured following by his erratic message that the destruction of the human race is true by God's will. They also found out that all of the crew except the captain from the Icarus I is inside the observation room, burnt to crisp, as their death is caused by the full exposure from the sun with no protection at all. As they investigate the ship further, the link connecting the two ships has been destroyed. As the crew rushes to exit the ship, they only found out that there is only one protective suit for the four of them on board. The four of them decided to give the suit to Kappa. Then one of them has to sacrifice to manually open the airlock and give them a boost towards the Icarus II. Surley volunteered, and the other two cover themselves with the insulation from the ship as they hold to Kappa getting ready to their launch. As the three launched, only Kappa and Mace reached Icarus II, leaving Harvey frozen in outer space. While Surley went into the observation room and gets a dose of his full exposure to the sun with no protection. As the remaining members debrief, Corazon proposes that they do not have oxygen for the remaining five of them: Kappa, Mace, herself, Cassie, and Trey. Although it is immoral, the four decides to let go of Trey. But upon the search of Trey in his room, he later found out that he ends his own life in their simulation room. The crew prepares as they are near to the sun. Meanwhile, Kappa questions their AI for the remaining oxygen for the crew and realizes that it is not sufficient enough for their return to Earth, which makes it a one-way trip for all of them. Kappa is also warned that the oxygen also isn't enough for them to reach the sun because the AI counted that there are 5 people aboard the ship, which alarms him knowing that there are only 4 people left in the ship. As Kappa heads out to the observation room with their AI's direction, he encountered a man with his seemingly disfigured and scorched body. Pinbacker, the captain of the Icarus I, and immediately attacks Kappa with a scalpel. Kappa then successfully escapes but is locked in the suit room and finds a vest that is tight enough that can apply pressure to his wound to stop it. Mace discovers that the system of the ship suddenly stops, and as he went to the mainframe of the ship, he discovers that the servers of the ship are suddenly raised in its coolant, prone to being overheated and destroyed. Corazon, however, found a plant in the remains of her oxygen garden, which was burnt earlier, but she was stabbed to death by Pinbacker. Cassie was also attacked, but escaped and hid in the payload. As Mace nearly fixes the mainframe of the ship, he is exposed to the freezing temperature of the coolants. He then fixed the final part of the mainframe, but his leg was stuck in the placement of the servers. Then he contacted Kappa and begs to deploy the payload of the ship by decoupling it, as Mace dies slowly due to the hypothermia. Kappa becomes encouraged and gets suited up to protect himself from Pinbacker. Then he tries to decouple the ship from the payload. As the ship and the payload separate, Kappa knew that this is a one-way trip. As he proceeds to jump on the payload for it to prime. As he enters the payload, he sees Pinbacker nearly killing Cassie. Kappa then tries to save her, and they got both separated from Pinbacker. Cassie then tells Kappa to prime the payload and proceeds to leave her to start the detonation. As Kappa successfully detonates the payload, somehow the space-time itself becomes distorted. As he touches and sees the sun closer with his newly found peace and accepts his death, the payload carrying the massive stellar bomb with the mass of the Manhattan explodes in the sun and eventually restarts its brightness. That's it for the main plot of the movie Sunshine. If I say so myself, this is a pretty good movie with a pretty good concept. As for earlier when I said the reasons, at least one of them why it didn't garner commercial success it wanted. One of them I think is the advertisement from its distribution in countries. Well, that is just my far-fetched theory from the real reason it happened. It could be anything, right? Anyways, the reception from the professional critics is slightly split. Some are good, but it also received some negatives, as the change from the sci-fi adventure to thriller makes it not consistent with its plot. But in my opinion, it seems fine to me since, I don't know, it adds more tension and also stakes for the mission to be done. If I were to judge this to my trusted, crispy, soggy, or stale rankings, definitely I'm going to place this on the crispy rank. Go watch the film, it's a good watch. So that's it for my review for the film Sunshine by Danny Boyle. It is an underrated film, and again, I suggest to you, everyone, give it a watch. With all that said and done, thanks for watching this video. Support the channel with your like, subscription, that sort of stuff. Well, that's it for this video, and yeah, see ya!